Can't Escape the Magic by Art Fox. Chapter 8. Fatima stood about the hummed amusedly. What a touching show of friendship. Morgiana growled. You're a monster! Me? Fatima clucked. I'm only doing my best as a master with such disobedient property. Might as well feed the rest of the hyenas. And with that he cut the rope holding Narja. The little girl fell and Morgiana screamed. She jumped out of the bandits, held, and came down hard, shattering the shackles on her feet. A shrill, piercing, sonic shriek erupted from Morgiana's mouth. Hyenas were slammed against the wall and scattered throughout the arena. The redhead could see the two boys collapsed against the bottom of the cliff wall. Above, Fatima was shrieking, Release everything we have for auction! Morgiana took a moment to comfort Narja. Then she moved. Cinna gave a hoarse groan as he felt himself regain consciousness. Knocked? He whispered. Knocked! His friend was lying next to him in the dusty ground. Cinna pushed himself up and laid a hand on his dark-skinned friend's head. Knocked! Wake up! He felt something on his hand. When he looked, he felt bile surge up his throat. Nock's lovely, braided, snowy hair was dyed a sickening red color. His tanned flesh was pale and clammy. Knocked, no! Cinna felt his face tighten with grief. He could taste pennies as tears made their salty tracks down his cheeks. Knocked, wake up! He ignored the commotion of the arena. He ignored the screaming of half-mad animals and the furious smashing and crunching sounds that the finalies made. All of his attention was on his friend, his best friend in this lifetime, his friend who was only 7 years old. Noct! Sweet Noct, who loved telling him the things he had learned traveling around, who was secretly a crybaby and mother hen, whose mother taught him how to braid and kept trying to manage Cinna's own messy locks. Noct, who hated seafood with a passion, who stuck the pillow under Cinna's head even when it wasn't his turn to have it. He taught him to stop looking in Fatima's eyes. The boy was the kindest person Cinna had ever known. He snuck fruit slices in Cinna's gruel when he thought he wasn't looking. He could find it in him. He laughed with him. His friend, Noct, who was far too still right now. Noct, please don't die. I promised you that you weren't going to die. You can't let me break my promise. Noct, please. The finalist girl approached from behind. She had a bag of keys and Narja in one of her arms. I'm sorry, she said in her monotone voice. He's my friend. Cinna sobbed against Noct's chest. My very best friend. Let me remove his chains at least. No one should wear chains after... Yeah, okay. Cinna moved back as the finalist girl pushed a key into the slot on Noct's collar. But then she paused. She leaned down to press her ear right against Nox's lips. What are you doing? Cinna sniffled as he rubbed his sleeve against his cheeks. He's breathing. What? After finding that Noct hadn't died from the fall, the finalist girl, whose name was Morgiana, Cinna found that out later, raced to the prisoner cells to try to find a doctor among the captured people. There were 3 doctors in the cell. She brought them to where Noct was laying and they went to work. She and the rest of the freed prisoners, including the blue-haired boy Aladdin, that turned out to be her friend, all fought to relinquish the stadium from the bandits and Fatima's control with the help of some giant blue monster that came out of a flute. Cinna tried not to think about that particular oddity. He was too focused on running this way and that to gather all the supplies that the doctors needed to help Noct. Another doctor from the various caravan and hired mercenaries descended on the stadium, joined them a while later. The 4 doctors worked for hours to help Noct. His friend had a dislocated shoulder, a broken arm, a sprained ankle, severely bruised ribs, a huge, ugly bruise all over his back and left side, a ton of scrapes and abrasions, and a very nasty head wound. The doctors were worried about his back being hurt really bad, but assured Cinna that his injuries could and should have been a lot worse with a fall that height. They exclaimed that it was nothing short of miraculous that they were both alive, let alone the fact that Cinna only had a broken wrist and some scrapes and bruises, and Noct would make a full recovery after a time. Solomon has protected the both of you, son. One elderly doctor patted him on the head. Be grateful for that. Okay, Cinna mumbled as he snuggled against the resting Noct's side. The old man laughed as he left them to nap for a few hours. The boy Aladdin came over to Cinna and Noct at the celebration feast later that night. Noct had woken up only a few hours before and was still sniffling on Cinna's shoulder for being so stupidly brave and stupid. So stupid! Stupid! Apparently, as grateful as Noct was for Cinna leaping after him, he was still a bit peeved at his thoughtlessness of his own safety. Aladdin sat next to them with a smile. Miss Morgiana told me what happened. You two are really good friends, huh? Cinna gave a wry smile. Noct's my best friend. Who else would you jump off a cliff with? Noct gave a stuffy-sounding sigh as he mumbled, Jokes! You're making jokes about that now? Already? I guess you're right, Aladdin laughed. I'm on my way to Balbad to see my good friend Ali Baba. Miss Morgiana is coming with me. What are you two doing after this? The two boys blinked. Cinna looked into his cup wonderingly as Noct fiddled with his arm's sling. I don't really know. I haven't thought about it. Me neither. I never thought I would ever not be a slave, Noct said quietly. What should we do? He looked at Cinna, who shrugged. Aladdin tilted his head. You could try to find your mother. I bet she really misses you. Yeah, but then Krumer would just sell me again for shades he got. I don't want to put her through that again. Besides, she probably thinks I'm dead or worse by now. I know! You two could travel with me and Morge to Balbad. I can introduce you to my good friend Ali Baba. Then you can be his friend too. What do you think? He smiled. Cinna and Noct looked at each other. Well, it sounds like a plan to me. Noct shrugged. Sounds like an adventure. Cinna grinned and turned to Aladdin. We're in. Great!